On a cold, moonless night, an old house on the outskirts of town was shrouded in near silence. The wind whispered through the cracks in the broken windows, and the only light that illuminated the place came from a flickering candle on a table in the center of the room. John, a curious teenager, entered the house with a group of friends. All of them dared each other to spend the night in what they considered the most haunted house in the area. "Let's see who can stay until dawn," John said, trying to sound brave, although he felt a strange feeling in his stomach. He knew the old stories about the house. It was said that a clown had died there, but his spirit had not left. Some claimed to see his shadows moving in the night. The house was in complete disrepair. The wooden floors creaked with every step, and the furniture was covered in dust and torn blankets. They walked from room to room, exploring the dark hallways, their flashlights casting long shadows on the walls. None of them really believed the legends until now. When John reached the main room, something caught his eye, a shadow moving on the wall in front of him. He stopped, frowning. His friends were laughing and talking, but he sensed something was wrong. The shadow didn't look like any natural form. It was much more human. "Guys, has anyone else seen that?" John asked quietly, staring at the wall. None of the others seemed to notice, but when he looked again, the shadow seemed to be closer, as if it were approaching him. His breathing became heavier. The air in the room suddenly grew cold. The candle, which had been lit before, went out on its own, plunging everything into darkness. John felt a chill run down his spine, and his friends began to laugh nervously, trying to keep calm. But their laughter seemed increasingly muffled, as if something was watching them. Then they heard the sound. First, a faint whisper, then a low, distorted laugh that seemed to come from inside the walls. John looked around, but he couldn't see anything. His friends were fidgeting, starting to move from side to side, but the feeling of being watched only grew stronger. "Let's get out of here," one of his friends suggested, but as they tried to move toward the door, something stopped them. The shadows on the walls began to writhe, as if they had a life of their own, and in every corner. John could have sworn he saw a pale, smiling face watching from afar. The laughter grew louder. That's when John saw it, a tall, thin figure with a red nose, and a wide, distorted smile peering through the kitchen door. The clown was there, but he seemed to dissolve into the shadows, as if he were a part of them. His eyes, a bright yellow, fixed directly on John before disappearing back into the darkness. "Do you see that?" John asked, trembling. But when his friends looked to where he was pointing, the figure was gone. "You're seeing things, man?" one of his friends said, trying to laugh. But the uncertainty in his voice made it clear that no one else felt comfortable. John, however, couldn't get the image of the clown out of his head, started walking down the hallway, following an inexplicable feeling that something was pulling him. The room seemed to become more cramped and claustrophobic as he went along. He entered a smaller room, and when he looked at the dirty mirror on the wall, he saw the clown's reflection. But that wasn't all. His reflection was moving, smiling wider, as if inviting John to come closer. He turned quickly, but there was no one there. The clown was just in the shadows, watching him with eerie patience. The laughter became louder, more unbearable. Suddenly he felt a presence behind him and turned, but there was nothing there. He ran back to where his friends were, only to find them in absolute silence. They were staring at the wall in front of them, where a pale, distorted figure was forming in the shadows. "He's here!" John shouted. But the clown, now in flesh and blood, didn't move. He stood still, a walking shadow, his glowing eyes fixed on each of them. The group tried to run, but the door closed of its own accord, locking them inside the house. The clown began to laugh again, but this time it was a laugh that made them feel as if they were being swallowed by the shadows. The last thing John heard before he lost consciousness was the sound of laughter echoing off the walls. When he woke up, he was alone, and the house was silent again. He ran out, but he never returned to that place. They say that whenever the moon is not in the sky, whoever dares to enter that house will hear the clown's laughter in the shadows.